It is time to break out the cold weather gear, the long sleeves, the hoodies, the jackets. But as you get those out, don't put up your spinner baits. Today we're talking about how to use spinner baits in cold weather to catch fish. Let's roll. Welcome back to the Monster Bass channel. If you are new, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. This channel, Monster Bass, is all about bringing you tips, tricks, and just how-to videos to go help you catch more fish, bigger fish, and hopefully your personal best using a lot of the baits that are coming in your Monster Bass subscription. My name is Jeremy with Fish and Lone Star. If you've not yet subscribed to my channel, it'll be linked below as well. Yes, I'm based out of Texas. Get out and share a ton of content with you around fishing lakes in North Texas and kind of what's working here. So make sure you check that out as well. Now today we are talking about throwing spinner baits in cold weather. Now, you normally throw spinner baits around grass, sometimes in warmer weather, but the winter time or even the cold weather, fall or winter, is still a great time to throw a spinner bait. We're gonna talk about a couple things today. One is different types of blades on spinner baits, kind of what they are, why they matter, when to choose each one. We're gonna talk briefly about the hook set because I believe that's just something that matters a lot when you're throwing a spinner bait. And then third, I'm gonna introduce something new, or at least it was somewhat new to me, maybe new to you, that you may not have seen yet that's gonna really help you in these colder months catch more fish on a spinner bait. So let's dive in. All right, first and foremost, let's talk about the different blades on a spinner bait. If you've seen spinner baits, which you probably have, they've been around forever, you've likely noticed there's a bunch of different variations of blades. And we're gonna talk a little bit about why that is and what some of those blades are. So first is probably the most common is the double willow blade that you kind of see here. So it's two elongated, this one's kind of kinked up, but it's two elongated skinny blades called willow blades, all right? Now these willow blades are gonna have a really tight spin to them. Let me set this one down. Gonna have a really tight spin to them as you see here, okay? They're gonna turn just like this. They're gonna have a really tight spin. It's a really good shad imitation for kind of smaller, when bass are eating smaller bait fish, all right? So you have one blade that spins around an axle this way, right? And then you have another blade that twists at the very end this way. So it's a really tight spinning action. At the same time, you have Colorado blades is another popular one, okay? So again, you have that blade that's gonna spin on its axis like this, and another one that's gonna spin in the back like this and create a really big thump. So while your willow blades are gonna have a really tight spin, your Colorado blades are gonna have a very big thumping spin. Now in general, spinner baits create a lot of flash, a lot of commotion, and a lot of vibration in the water. But one is gonna cause less vibration and a little bit more flash. One's gonna still flash, but have more of a thump, all right? I like to throw willow blades more around some of the thicker vegetation. And when I feel like bass are chasing smaller bait fish, because those small willow blades represent smaller bait fish, and I like to throw this probably a little bit more clear water, whereas if the water is stained or a low visibility, I'm gonna throw these Colorado blades, all right? Now, sometimes you'll see that there's a combination of both. So like in this one here, you've got both a big willow blade in the back and a smaller Colorado blade in the front, okay? I normally like to kind of think about which blades I'm throwing by the rear blade, not necessarily the one up front, okay? The one up front's gonna spin on this axis relatively the same either way. It's the one in the back that you can that I usually am concerned with. So again, the willow blade's gonna be a tight spin, Colorado blade's gonna be a little bit of a wider spin. Now, one that you probably haven't seen before is called a long drop blade. What's a long drop blade? Well, it's what's featured on the Trickster by Lucky Strike. Now this bait was designed by professional angler Rick Clunn, and it's pretty darn unique because of this long drop blade that you see here. What's interesting about this particular blade, it's a little bit of a hybrid between a willow blade and a Colorado blade, maybe even like an Indiana, which the Indiana blade's also a little bit of a hybrid between a willow blade and a Colorado blade. But the long drop blade is pretty unique in that it gives off a lot wider spin and a lot bigger thump. What I really also like about the Trickster, and this particular one that I received in a Monster Bass bag, is this one's a 3/4 ounce, right? So it's pretty heavy. Because it is heavier, you're gonna wanna fish it deeper, all right? And that's what's gonna kind of segue into fishing it in colder water and why this bait works really well. But let's talk about the hook set first, and then we'll jump into the technique that I've been using recently to catch fish with this lure in deeper water. All right, so your hook set when you fill a bite on a spinnerbait is gonna be somewhere between a Texas rig and a crankbait, right? So let's talk about both of those ends of the spectrum. A Texas rig is a slow moving bait, and when you fill a bite, you have to give a good hook set because you usually have it rigged weedless, and you wanna really drive that hook into the fish's mouth and give a big, strong hook set, all right? Although with a crankbait, you have small treble hooks on a moving bait, and when the fish is biting a moving bait, you kind of just want to lean into it and kind of turn your hips and let the rod and the fish almost kind of load and hook the fish itself, all right? So big, hard hook set with the Texas rig, sweeping motion with a crankbait. We've talked about that in previous videos on the Monster Bass channel. Those are the two extremes. The spinnerbait's gonna be somewhere in the middle, all right? You still have a pretty big hook, right? That's in that skirt, and it is a moving bait. This wire though is gonna absorb some of the blow, but because the fish is swimming after the bait and it is moving, you don't have to give a hard, big hook set. You don't necessarily wanna just sweep either and kind of have a softer hook set like you would with the crankbait. It's somewhere in the middle. So I normally kind of give what I call a swift sweep with the spinnerbait, and then reel down and obviously reel the fish in. But you kind of want to lean but swiftly while setting that hook, because usually a spinnerbait does have a bigger hook, single hook, that you want to drive into the fish's mouth. So that's a little bit of the hook set that works for me. Again, I call it kind of the swift sweep. I'm going to coin that phrase, but that's kind of what I call it as you swiftly sweep into a hook set and then obviously reel the fish in. Now, let's talk about colder water and where fish go when the fish gets cooler. Yeah, sometimes they'll push up and chase bait fish on points, ledges, up against bluffs, etc. But a lot of times when it gets cooler, fish will also move a little bit deeper. So you can kind of find the deepest little pocket of wherever you're fishing, whether that be a creek channel, or even if you're pond fishing, you find the deepest area of that pond. That's usually where the fish are going to congregate. And that's where I really like the Trickster, because that heavier designed head is going to get down deeper. But then, as I mentioned before, those long drop blades are also going to give a really big sweeping motion and commotion in the water. So if you think about your willow blade is going to spin this way. Your Colorado blade is going to spin like this. The long drop blade is going to rotate and spin very wide. All right. Now, when you're fishing the Trickster, you want to fish really slow. All right. It's a slow reel, slow retrieve. You don't want to get too fast with it. You can burn it on top. Rick Clunn talks about that in some of his videos, how he likes to burn them on top. But I like to fish them a little bit slower, almost kind of hitting the bottom with it. Think about it, cold weather, bass are going to get deeper. That's where at least the warmer water is. That's still cold, but the warmest of the cold water. They're going to go down deeper. They're going to be a little slower. The bait's going to be slower. You want to have a slower retrieve, but that big, wide, wobbling blade on the back, that long drop blade, that's unique to the Trickster, is going to draw strikes and is going to help you catch fish in deeper water. So I've been fishing it between 9 to 12 feet, somewhere in there. So again, you've got multiple different types of blades. You got willow blades, you've got Colorado blades, Indiana blades, but don't sleep on the long drop blade. At first, I didn't really like it because it was such a big wobble. It's not something I was used to, but once I kind of figured out to slow roll it and to fish it a little deeper, a little slower, I actually did produce bites and caught fish, as you saw in this video. So pretty cool. I tried something new, asking you to try something new. The Trickster that came in a recent Regional Pro bag by Monster Bass helped me go catch some fish. So pretty darn cool. All right, speaking of the Regional Pro bag, if you've not yet tried them out, make sure you subscribe to Monster Bass. These Regional Pro bags are packed full of baits that are specific to your region, your time of year, to help you go catch fish. So you're not gonna get the same baits. If you're like me in Texas, you're not gonna get the same baits as someone in, say, Michigan. They're gonna get different baits than what you're getting. That's what makes Monster Bass unique, is they're hand-picked baits for you and for your region. And you get this awesome reusable bait bag. I have tons of these now on my boat. This is my main go-to for how I store baits. So pretty awesome. You get basically a free bag included in your subscription. So make sure you check out Monster Bass. Again, my name is Jeremy with Fishing Lone Star. Thank you for checking out this video. Drop me a comment below. Let me know if you've tried the trickster yet with that long drop blade, what you think of it. Again, fish it slow, fish it deep, and you'll catch some fish. And again, if you have not yet, check out Monster Bass. Subscribe to the channel and go check out the regional pro bags. Monster Bass, go catch one.